the third and final day of the NCIT Virtual Colloquium. We are about to get started here shortly, but I just want to give just a heads up for all of our speakers and moderators. Just a reminder to please mute your microphones and your cameras if you are not speaking. With that said, I would like to go ahead and invite Dr. Judy Perkins to the stage to kick us off this morning with a few opening remarks. Judy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate that. And greetings to everyone. As Stephanie mentioned, this is the final day of our virtual colloquium. I serve as the director of the center, and we have had an amazing 2 days of this particular event. I am going to thank everyone in advance, because some of you may have to depart early, but I want to thank you in advance for joining us to help with elevating what we're doing in terms of the research, in terms of the education workforce development initiatives, as well as our technology transfer initiatives. That said, today you will hear from 2 core areas of our center, those being education workforce development and technology transfer. We will also be joined by the Texas Department of Transportation leadership, as well as hearing lectern presentations from 2 of our research pillars. It's in a combined session dealing with policy as well as infrastructure durability and resiliency. We will have presentations from our graduate students, and then we will round the day out with a discussion roundtable involving sponsorship representatives as well as stakeholders. With that being said, continue to engage us with questions that you have for us. Make sure you get as much as you can out of this, helping us to improve upon what we're going to be doing. And during my closing remarks, I'll talk a little bit more about how we're going to engage you after the event is over with. That being said, thank you again. And Stephanie, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. All right. I would like to go ahead and transition us over into our first session for today. We're going to start off with the Education and Workforce Development session. Dr. Charles Gerganges with Texas A&M University and TTI will be moderating this session for us today. Charles, if you are on, if I could go ahead and get you to turn your camera and your mic on. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Steph. So as Steph mentioned, this is our Education and Workforce Development session. And in this session, presenters will explore programs advancing transportation, education, and workforce readiness. I'm going to go ahead and introduce all of our speakers right now, just so that we make sure we give them as much time as possible to present their work. So bear with me while I go through all of the speakers' introductions really quickly, and then we'll just try to transition seamlessly through them. Our first speaker today will be Dr. Jennifer Chandler from Arizona State, and she will introduce the Insight Leadership Through Mentoring program. She'll be followed by Laura Higgins from TTI, discussing a summer internship initiative for undergraduates in transportation. Precious I'm so sorry, Miss Precious. I looked up how to say this properly. Ejikeme is a graduate student from Prairie View A&M, and she will present on AI-driven optimization for e-bike routes. Dr. Claudia Zapata, associate professor from Arizona State University, will focus on teacher-focused research experience and vertically integrating projects. And the session will conclude with Dr. Surya from Michigan State University, where he will showcase the efforts to introduce Michigan's K-12 students to drone technology, emphasizing early exposure to emerging transportation tools. Each of our speakers has 10 minutes to present, so I want to go ahead and throw it to Dr. Chandler to go ahead and present the first topic. Go ahead, Dr. Chandler.
Thank you. And let me try to quickly get my slides up here because I know we have. All right. Are my slides showing for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So This is a work in progress. I'm going to explain the background, why we're focusing on leadership, why we chose a mentoring context, and then I'm going to explain a little bit about what the program's doing, and then we end with just a little snapshot of just the numbers of individuals who have completed this online program so far from the different participants. So here we go. Now, I'm not going to read all of these slides to everyone. I'm going to try to just focus on some highlights. Now, why are we teaching leadership? So because my PhD is in leadership, I could actually spend several hours addressing that question, but I won't. So I'm just sharing a few highlights here with everyone about why leadership has been recognized within the engineering discipline as essential. And I have some quotes from some recent engineering education research studies. And I believe that our slides will be made available for all participants if they want them. So you can, I'll be able to share this information with everybody. But we see here that it's important. It's been recognized as important, but it's also that the challenges of teaching leadership within the context of engineering has also been recognized. And particularly in this quote here, the feedback that engineering faculty are not always feeling like they're prepared to teach leadership contexts. So, and the slide advancing gets a little tricky in here. Okay, so one of the challenges in the field of leadership, in teaching leadership to any group of individuals, is that a lot of people have inaccurate notions about leadership itself. So for example, here I have these images. And so the ones on the right might look familiar. You might have seen these in somebody's presentation. You might have seen these on a book cover, something like these images to represent leadership. And then you might have seen an image like the one on the left that has also been used to represent leadership. And it's by depicting these birds flying in these V formations, is trying to convey that all of the members of a group following just one individual is somehow natural and normal. But there's some problems with these images. First, the images on the right are depicting only one kind of leadership, and this is a very simplistic follow the leader arrangement, right? And that can be useful in emergency situations, but it doesn't really embrace or give us images so to embrace the full complexity of what leadership is, what that is in a group or team research situation either. And then secondly, the image of the V formation of the birds is misleading. Although it could be a real picture, referring to this as in describing these birds as all following the one that's at the point of the V is inaccurate. And I'm just going to give a little brief information about a particular species of flocking bird, the northern ibis. Research that was done with them found that each bird tended to have a flying buddy. That is, there were pairs of birds in the entire group that tend to fly together. And they tend to choose a spot in the V formation that they like to hang out. And they switch their positions, one's in the lead, one's following, frequently while they're flying. Except they don't switch their positions because one is tired. They just switch their positions based on their relationship. And then to make it even more complex, this flying buddy they have isn't the same bird necessarily that they hang out with on the ground when they're eating or resting or sleeping. So it's a much more complex social arrangement going on with these birds that we're looking at in the, from the ground. We're looking up and going, oh, look, they're all following one bird. One bird knows where they need to go and they're all following one. Nope, that's not what's happening. And just like the northern ibis or other flocking birds, human beings and our leadership is much more complex too. So having said that, get my slide advancing. So why are we teaching leadership in the context of in a mentoring context? So that I have a few slides on this. the mentoring context provides this environment where the mentor and the mentee are having conversations in which both of them are, because they're explaining, one is explaining what they don't understand and the other one is translating and explaining what they do understand. They both have the opportunity of deepening their technical knowledge. Another thing that occurs in a mentoring context is related to the previous slide I just showed, is that they have the opportunity of enhancing their communication skills. And I'm just highlighting a few of them. There's actually several more benefits that accrue to both the mentee and the mentor in a mentoring relationship. And many of you probably already know this. These are not new insights for you. The collaboration and the teamwork that is enhanced in a mentoring relationship. All right, now we're getting to what does this particular Leadership Through Mentoring program look like that I designed for NCIT. And it's mentors and mentees who already, it was designed for mentors and mentees that are already have this mentoring relationship established in their institution where they're working on the research project that is the one that they're working on in their institution. So this program isn't dictating that or making any changes to that arrangement. This program that I'm running that's focusing on leadership doesn't assign the mentors or the mentees, doesn't choose them, doesn't select them, has no, it's not tinkering with those relationships. Those are set by each institution, and the projects they're working on is set by those institutions as well. So what this program provides is for the mentors and the mentees to focus on 8 major leadership competencies. Oh boy. Okay, sorry about that. And then after learning an overview of these 8 leadership competencies, then they have the opportunity, they select just one of the leadership competencies to focus on for the rest of the course. And where did these 8 leadership competencies come from? So this is where they came from. I took these from C. Miller and Whitney's work, and anyone who wants to look more in depth into student leadership competencies, I would recommend going to Corey C. Miller's website. She's really well known. She's done research on student leadership competencies for quite some time and has a lot of resources on this. So I took their framework, and they have this framework where they have these interpersonal, social, and strategic. Those are the different columns of student leadership competency. And then they have these levels where from the lowest level to the highest level, there's increasing complexity in the skills themselves. And so our course for NCIT focuses on this middle level of the complexity level. And there's just one item that we're taking from one row higher, which is the provide feedback. So in some of these are the leadership competency is straight from what C. Miller and Whitney provided. And some of them I've integrated and combined. Like, for example, the one that you see there in the second column, invest in the well-being of others, demonstrate empathy, and understand other circumstances and perspectives. That's an amalgamated one that in C. Miller and Whitney's work, they have that listed as several separate items, and I've integrated all of those. So I've done that in a couple of different places. Like I've integrated providing feedback and receiving feedback. Those are integrated ones for our course. Understanding oneself and understanding one's values. That's another one that has been integrated. So that's where the leadership competencies came from. And then, so here they are just listed, the same 8 outside of the, taking them out of that table. And so what I've created for each of these is each one has 4 very detailed and tailored specifically to an engineering context, an engineering discipline environment, these experiential exercises for each of these But the students, remember, are only selecting one leadership competency for the second half of the course. So they're only focusing on the one that they wanted to improve on. So they're completing these 4 detailed experiential exercises for the course, and they work on those. It takes them a couple of weeks to complete each one, and they're documenting what they've done, and then they send that to me. So that's in a nutshell how the course works. And here is the slide I promised that shows the number of participants from the partner organizations and who's completed it so far. And we currently have the fall course of it. We have 3 individuals in that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chandler. That was wonderful. And I forgot to mention to the group, if you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the Q&A. So please type your questions in, and we'll come back at the very end and I'll move those questions to the right presenter. So thank you again, Dr. Chandler. To keep things moving and to stay on time, I'm going to throw it to Laura Higgins next. Laura, are you with us? Are you ready to go? Oh, perfect. There you are. Thank you, Laura. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hopefully my tab is about to share here. I'm here to speak to you today about the UTC summer internships at TTI and give you just a little overview over our last 11 years. In our internships in their current format, there have been earlier internships decades before I was involved with them, but in our current format, our summer undergraduate research internships have existed since 2014. They were first sponsored by the Atlas University Transportation Center. We've had several sponsors over the years, as you can see on this slide, and our 3 current ones are CAR-T, NCIT, and the Southern Plains Transportation Center. So our internships fulfill a number of kind of interconnected objectives. It is one way, of course, to support the educational goals that any university transportation center has as part of its charter. But it also continues a long tradition at TTI of engaging students both at the undergraduate and graduate levels in meaningful research. And the ultimate goal of is always, we would like to find our next generation of engineers and planners and researchers in transportation. The internships last 10 weeks. We usually align them with A&M's summer semester, which takes us from the very end of May to either the end of July or the first couple of days of August. Each intern is paired with a research mentor. That can be a full-time TTI researcher. In some cases, we may have A&M faculty who are working on UTC projects. But each intern is paired with a professional researcher for the summer, and they may work on an active project that researcher already had, or in some cases they may pursue an independent topic that's within the research realm of the UTC. In addition to their project work, we try to provide some professional development and social events throughout the summer. These usually include presentations on how to write a research paper and how to develop a research presentation. We have researchers come in to give presentations to the students about projects that they are working on, or maybe ways they got into the transportation field. And then at the end of the summer, the students' final deliverables are a research paper and a research presentation. In early years, those research presentations were research posters. In more recent years, as we've had some of our interns start to participate remotely, we've shifted to this type of presentation, a lectern type presentation that can be done in person or on Teams. Our interns, our applicants need to be U.S. citizens or permanent residents. We are generally looking for rising seniors. They've completed at least 90 undergraduate semester hours, so that typically is, they've completed their junior year of their undergraduate degree by the end of the spring semester, just before they start the internship. And then we prefer that they're not that they haven't graduated already. So we say that their upcoming graduation shouldn't be sooner than the fall semester following their internship. And then we also ask that they're able to work 40 hours a week for the full 10 weeks. We make it clear that this summer internship really doesn't go well with also taking a full load of summer classes for that same semester, because the priority is the work and the experience. Our interns get paid $15 an hour, which is sort of typical undergraduate student compensation at A&M. So they can earn up to $6,000 for the summer. In addition to that, if for interns that live locally and work in person at TTI, we also provide an additional $3,200 for the summer to help pay for housing and food. So since from 2014 through this most recent summer through 2024, we've had a total of 93 students come through our summer undergraduate research internships. They represent 21 universities, and they have come from 13 states in addition to Puerto Rico. In addition to some geographic and university diversity, we have a huge range of academic majors. We've had 20 plus different academic majors, most frequently falling into one of these areas. We've had a number of different engineering majors, urban planning, public health, all sorts of things having to do with data analysis, computer science, history, political science, environmental and earth sciences. So we just get a really tremendous wealth of approaches and experience from all of our interns. These are just a handful of examples of some recent intern projects. I believe these are all from our most recent year. One of our NCIT interns in 2024 took a look at traffic congestion, contextualizing it in terms of social, geographic, and demographic data. Another one of our NCIT interns this last year looked at trade across the U.S.-Mexico border, specifically at the Laredo point of entry, and looked at how that port was impacted by changes in the types and amounts of freight commodities in both directions over time. One of our first Southern Plains Transportation Center interns looked at hurricane evacuation and how available information can impact critical decisions, both at the larger official level and at individual levels, and how that impacts evacuation. And then one of our recent CAR-T interns, CAR-T focuses on transportation emissions and health, and one of our interns there looked at the impacts of electrifying school buses, transferring from diesel to electric, and how that potentially can impact the environment. So I won't read all of these to you, but I've got a couple of slides of statements that our interns have made. We sometimes ask them at the end of the summer if they can give us a sentence or two of just what their internship meant to them or provided to them, and we get a variety of answers. Some of them deal specifically with new skills that they learned or existing skills that they had learned in class and now get to apply in real life. But we also get a lot of replies from our interns about more general things, about how the experience of being of working in a research environment opened their eyes to career ideas that they had never considered. They Many of them talk about what a welcoming environment TTI provides, which makes us very happy. But what really excites us is that a lot of them really get turned on to new possibilities in their education, in their careers, and in just the types of things that they start to consider to do with their futures. And that is reflected in a lot of our internship outcomes. To my knowledge, of the ones that I know about, we have at least 36 of our interns that have continued on to graduate school. We've had 17 that have stayed on either short-term as student researchers, or in some cases, they've become our full-time colleagues after graduation. And we've had over 20 that have pursued careers in transportation engineering, planning, or research. And we are looking forward. We're actually getting ready to put our flyers together to start recruiting our 2025 summer interns. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Charles. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laura. So next on the agenda from Prairie View A&M University, we have Miss Precious Ejikeme. Hopefully I did better that time, Precious. The floor is yours.
Yes, you did good. Hi, everyone, and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I'll be presenting you my research on AI and transportation, optimizing bicycle routes for e-bike use. Next slide, please. Thank you. So today, I'll be taking you through the overview of the project, what was the motivation, what challenges we face in this research, and also the new research direction that we had to embark on because of these challenges, the initial findings, and also how we plan to return back to the research. And next slide, please. On our project team, we have me. I'm a graduate student of Computer Information Systems and Prairie View A&M with my professors, Dr. Nushin Ghaffari, Dr. Perkins, and Dr. Mehdi Azimi from Texas Southern University. These are all the people that are supervising this project and working with me. And we have the team from Shrewsbury, which is our sponsor for this project, and all of the Shrewsbury all of the Shrewsbury people that were working on the project are all listed below. Mr. Peter Konzinski, the Brian Kinder, Brian Abugembo, Eric Rowe, and also Dr. Warren Anthony are all part of this project. Next slide. Thank you. So what was the purpose for this project? In the recent years, e-bikes are making a huge comeback to the transportation system, and this is because of how much easier it is to operate e-bikes, and also and as well as is a more greener source of transportation. It helps with the environment because of it doesn't have to burn fossil fuel. So because of this because of this increase in demand for e-bikes, it has also brought its own unique challenges that it's facing on both the infrastructure that is existing in the country. So the current infrastructures are failing to meet the demand of e-bikes, and e-bikes, they demand a much more safer and faster and more comfortable route of travel. And you can believe in me, for e-bikes, because of the lack of need to pedal the bicycles, people are able to move faster to their destination. They're able to choose routes that may not be comfortable for somebody who's taking a pedal bicycle. So this project is supposed to support eco-friendly transportation means by facilitating safer and more efficient routes for e-bikes, and this will in turn help to reduce congestion and emission in our urban areas. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what was the original vision and goal for this research? Our objective for this research was first to develop an AI-driven insight into bike route preferences. We want to understand what are the reasons why people choose different bike routes when they're taking e-bikes compared to when they're using classic bicycles, which are our pedal bicycles. And also want to also optimize the existing routes for e-bike safety, speed, and also for the user experience as well. And the motivation behind this is because of the unique demands of e-bike e-bikers and commuters on the urban infrastructure. For example, and somebody who's on an e-bike may want to take a more scenic route because they don't have to. They can choose to take a longer route compared to somebody who is pedaling the bicycle because they can go a further route without having to pedal. So there are so many unique demands of e-bikes that this research was trying to find ways to optimize the route for the e-bike users. And the study area was for College Station, Texas, and Denver, Colorado. Our initial plan was to start with College Station, which is a smaller study area, and then expand our research into Denver, Colorado. And for this research, it requires the following data requirements. We need e-bike origin and destination with actual route data. So we need like historic data for people who have taken rides using e-bikes, both the origin and destination coordinates and the actual route plan. And also it required bike infrastructure data, for example, like bike lanes, intersections, and other infrastructure data that will be used to understand the route that these e-bikers take. And then the area images of the study area as well. Next slide. Now, with the following research, we face so many challenges and some data limitations because of data unavailability. Because of personal data, it was very difficult to assess real-world e-bike routes and actual data plan. We were able to assess a lot of data that only included the coordinates for the origin and destination, but not the actual path taken by the biker on their route. And also that is because of lack of availability for these data plans for this data, because of it included personal information that many companies may not want to release or for their clients. So to try to gather this data, we had so many collaboration plans to meet with many bike share companies and other third-party aggregators such as Strava, Lyft, Lime, and so many other bike share companies. But unfortunately, we're not able to access actual path data for e-bike rides. So this led to a decision to pivot the research because of the data constraint, and this decision to pivot led into us trying to look instead into bike usage pattern analysis, since the data set they were able to collect had enough information for us to analyze the bike usage pattern. And then secondly, our plan is to collect actual path data for e-bikes in the future so that we can pivot back to the original research in the near future. Next slide, please. Now I would like to show you what is the new research direction that we were taking because of this data breach, and also the ride share and bicycle usage patterns versus e-bike, which is the e-bike versus classic bikes. We're going to take you through what kind of analysis we were able to do to understand how people use e-bikes versus how people use classic bikes. Next slide. So the objective of this research, e-bikes versus classic bikes, is to understand how e-bikes and classic bike patterns are different based on user preferences, and also to develop a predictive model for determining bike choice. So we want to be able to understand how people use e-bikes and classic bikes and be able to develop a machine learning model that can predict choice of bicycle, whether classic or e-bikes, depending on so many factors such as the time of the day, month, the temperature, or other geographical analysis. So for this data set that was used for this analysis, we had looked into the following analysis areas, which is usage frequency comparison, duration analysis, user type analysis. For the user type analysis, we looked into what kind of users, whether they were casual users who just picked a bike for the day, or they were members who have subscription to the service. We also look at temporal analysis, looking at the time, how the time of the day or the day of the week affects how people choose bicycles. And then we look at the geographical analysis as well. So for this analysis, we use a data set which contained 806,000 data points, and it includes about 273,000 classic bikes and about 508,000 e-bike data. And we also have about 556 bike stations, and this data set was sourced from a California rideshare data set, which is a data that is publicly available on the internet. Next slide, please. So for this analysis, these are the initial findings. For the usage frequencies, the analysis found that people preferred e-bikes over classic bikes. As you can see, that people had about 500,000 data points for e-bikes compared to just about 270,000 rides for the classic bikes. While for the average duration analysis, we were able to find that people who rode classic bikes rode for about 19.45 minutes on average, while for classic bike it was about 12.48 minutes, 12 minutes 48 seconds for e-bikes, which was a much shorter ride duration. Depending on it didn't matter on what the direction was or the use of the bike, it was just an average ride duration for these two types of bikes. Then looking at the temporal analysis, we're able to find that for hourly usage, use of e-bikes peaks during rush hour, which suggests a commuting pattern. Most people who use e-bikes use it during commuting hours, which is during early in the mornings, around between 7 a.m. to late in the morning, which is around 9 a.m. And then it picks up again in the evenings during evening rush hour, which is between 4 p.m. to 5 to 6 p.m. in the evening. But for classic bikes, we found out that it was much spread out throughout the day, but also peaks within the evening as well for the use of classic bikes. Then for the weekly usage, we found out that e-bikes peak during weekdays more than the weekends. While for classic bike, even though it shows a more even distribution across the week and a slight increase of activity during the weekends. And what this analysis shows that people who are using e-bikes what it suggests that people who are using e-bikes could be using it mostly for commuting purposes, while people who use classic bike have a mixture of both commuting and also leisure activities because of how they use the e-bikes, the classic bikes during the week and also during the day. Next slide, please.
Oh, Precious, I'm going to have to jump in there. I think that's a great spot for us to stop right now, the initial findings. So thank you for that. So to stay on time, I'm going to have to move to Dr. Claudia Zapata from Arizona State. Again, thank you, Precious. If anybody has any questions, please drop them in the Q&A. And Dr. Zapata, I'll throw it to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to this section. I'm going to be talking briefly here about the education and outreach program that we have at ASU, and particularly I'm also speaking on behalf of my colleague, Dr. Jean Larson, who is the education coordinator for this. So, let's see if I can. Okay, so the education and outreach activities at ASU, we are committed to several programs on education, on support of our different populations and technical activities, and in addition to the leadership through mentoring program that Dr. Chandler just presented earlier. These programs include the vertically integrated project for undergraduate students, research experience for teachers, for K-14 population outreach, and advancing excellence in education scholarship also for undergraduate students, and a graduate certificate program for professional development. I'm going to be talking today on two programs, the vertically integrated project and the research experience for teachers. The VIP program, what we call it VIP, is the vertically integrated project. Is not new for these communities. I think it's an idea that came from Georgia Tech about 15 years ago, and it's a program that enables undergraduate students to engage in long-term research projects led by faculty and industry members while receiving academic units, not money, but academic credits. This program is an important retention tool and facilitates the pipeline of students towards transportation-related careers. It's available to freshmen through senior students, and its intensity is a function or is commensurate with the student's time availability. At ASU, we established course lines for undergraduate students to register for the vertically integrated project program. 3 course lines were created so students can register for the fall semester. Students may receive 1 to 3 credits per session depending on the student's availability. Usually there is 1 credit for 5 hours of work on the 15-week session. If it's the short section, well, it's going to be double. 2 credits for 8 hours and 3 credits for about 12 hours per week of work. This past year, we were able to recruit 2 amazing students, senior students, Sam Montano, who enrolled in the VIP Honors Senior option and worked with his honors thesis in our laboratory. Then also Jimmy Hanesian, who's currently enrolled in the Honors Grade VIP course as a senior student. He's also working on his thesis. Good thing, this is a pipeline. Sam actually is now a construction engineering graduate student at ASU. Research experience for STEM teachers. RET program is our second program that we're going to be talking today. It is for K-12 STEM teachers and community college STEM faculty teachings. Usually we recruit from schools from rural areas and serving Native American populations who allow them to participate in research experience with faculty researchers. These experiences are usually held in person, provide participants with engineering research experience in our laboratories, guidance in developing content curriculum for their own schools based on NCIT research, and follow-up support for translating the research experience into the classroom practice. The program of RET experience include both asynchronous and synchronous components in a hybrid format that also allow these participants from remote areas to also participate. Some of them cannot even make it to campus. So this is also a very important tool for us to be able to recruit them. It allows for them to also work on their own time. This program provides also a stipend. This one is for a stipend that is usually divided into 2 parts. One, where they're doing their experience, and then at the end, when they implement the lesson to their own classrooms. The RET experience deliverables include a research poster that they do with their mentors, a lesson plan, and the lesson implementation report as well. This year also, this summer, 2 K-14 STEM teachers participated in the RET program. Recruitment was targeted to underserved schools with a high population of teachers and students from underrepresented groups. Both teachers recruited were amazing. One of them, Brandon Trotter, who teaches at Sound Mountain High School, worked on Dr. Camille's project. And the second one was, and he also was actually mentored by, let me check. I think I have this one. And the second one was Leslie Arriaga, who worked on the Estrella Mountain Community College. Both of them work on the research that NCIT has been pursuing. One under Dr. Kalush on approach for making more climate resilient asphalt pavements. And the second one was the automated construction quality monitoring and inspection protocol using unmanned aerial vehicles from Hassan Oser. And the nice thing also, they were mentored by either postdoctoral scholars or graduate students. So there's also an experience for the students to mentoring teachers. Both teachers work with their mentors to develop also lessons plans based on the project research and have or will be implemented their lessons this fall. Leslie, for example, implemented in September, and here is kind of an outline of the implementation plan. It's very complete, includes the lesson overview, materials and equipment, the educational standards, the learning objectives. It's very, very complete and very well organized and professional. And obviously, it includes lessons, procedure, and assessment of the students after they receive their lessons. An evaluation component is obviously linked to each education, leadership, mentoring, and outreach activity that we pursue. A complete NIRB protocol has been approved to cover both the education and outreach and leadership through mentoring assessments. All developed recruitment materials and instruments have been approved by the ASU Office of Research, Integrated and Assurance. And moving forward, well, the group will keep the recruitment effort of undergraduate students to register for the VIP credit and apply for the NCIT scholarships. We will focus on supporting the RET program, teachers on acquiring materials for the lesson implementation, submitting final deliverables, and completing final assessment. And a final survey also has been developed and distributed for these teachers to be evaluated, and also for the students in their own schools. With that, I just give you a very brief overview of two of the very amazing programs that we're pursuing in here. And if you have any question, you can contact me or Dr. Larson at ASU. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zapata. So we have one more speaker on the agenda. We have Dr. Surya Congress from Michigan State University. So Dr. Congress, I'll throw it to you, but if you'll give me just one quick question. Laura, there has been a question typed in the chat for you. So Ms. Laura Higgins, if you'd take a look at that during Dr. Congress's presentation, we'll bounce to you to answer that at the end. So it's all yours, Dr. Congress.
Hi, Dr. Goodness. Thanks for the introduction. So today, I'll be discussing our outreach activities in regards to exposing Michigan communities to new infrastructure monitoring technologies by engaging students and parents. Dr. Chetin and myself at Michigan State are working towards this. It will be a brief presentation. So these are some of the outreach activities we have been doing this year. Typically, if you see there is a theme, it would be either drones or dirt. So we have done quite a bit for the Girls Math Science Day, as well as Take Your Child to Work events, as well as Summer High School Engineering Institute. So as part of Summer High School Engineering Institute, we get at least 100 students from all over the country who are finishing high school, so that they get exposure to STEM-related activities. So I'm going to show some of the pictures and then explain what we did in detail. So for example, as you can see in this picture, we were actually teaching soil using basic testing to the kids. And we were very surprised to actually see the students very interested and enthusiastic to play with sand and soil. And as you can see, they were able to understand permeability to even strength concepts just by doing small activities hands-on. So which was a great help. And in the second one, as you can see, when we go out in the field and collect data, there is always students and families who are interested. So this happened to be at a site in a park where there were a bunch of kids hanging out there, and then they heard drones flying. So we just mentioned, please wait until we are done with the inspections, and then we spent time, clarifying some of their queries, and it was very, enriching conversation for both parties. And then this was part of another event where we had both parents and students come visit our campus. Unfortunately, we were supposed to fly the drone, and the weather didn't allow us to fly. So what we did is we actually trained the students to simulate the drone flight. As you can see, the kids are actually holding the drone and as well as the remote controller. So they were simulating, and even one of the students was making sounds as if the drone is flying. So it was very endearing to see. And this one is part of the High School Summer Institute I was talking about. So as you can see, we are using new technologies to catch the interest of students. As you can see, I'm wearing the AR/VR goggles, where the complex concepts can be shown in a much more intuitive fashion. So that is the essence of most of our outreach activities. So using newer technologies to connect to the concepts. So it has been a great success so far. And again, this is part of the Girl Math event where we are exposing the application of machine learning and other concepts in engineering and infrastructure asset management. As you can see, both the students as well as the parents being involved and learning how we're using these technologies for infrastructure monitoring. As you can tell, this one is recently we had a farmers market event where it was all STEM related showcase. We were showing all the new gadgets and also technology, and we even flew the drone. Thankfully, it wasn't raining back then. So all the students, they were very much interested. We got very good interest in follow-up as well. As you can see on the TV, the kid can actually see a bridge, like a huge bridge, which is being shown in a digital format, so in a high quality 3D model, so which was very exciting for the kid as well as myself. And this is part of our NCIT conference that we did in DC, where not only the students but also the administrators were also very enthusiastic about how well these technologies can help us in conducting the infrastructure monitoring. So that is something we have been doing quite a bit. And this is another event where we had prospective students who actually are visiting, as you can see, as demonstrating the drones as well as 3D models. So that actually led to some very nice testimonials, which I'll show in the next slide. And the last piece of it is training the future workforce. As you can see, this is my undergraduate class not long ago, probably a week or two back, where we are using these gadgets to introduce these technologies to the classroom and prepare them to embrace these new technologies when they go out and work for the industry. So that is something we've got very good response upon. As you can see, again, the bridge that we monitored using drones, and we built the model and we were able to showcase them on this virtual reality, which is very helpful in telling them what kind of field conditions exist during failure, before failure. So that is very helpful. So these are some of the student testimonials. I don't want to go over everything, but I would like to highlight a couple of things. One is they are intrigued by the technology. So one of the advantages of using technology or presenting technology is the technology does 80% of the work. I just can talk. The 3D models can actually show much more than what I can talk. So using technologies, we are able to connect very well with the students and also increase their interest in engineering programs, STEM programs. As you can see in their testimonial written by Cameron from New York, they enjoyed learning about technology, and they even remember the work that we are doing with USDOT. She even wrote that in the email and mentioned that they're excited about joining the engineering program. And this is another testimonial from another student where you can see their cool toys, right? I always call them birds, but they're cool toys, like using drones and all. And now he was like thinking of mechanical engineering or some other engineering, but now I think we changed his opinion about civil engineering, where we use multidisciplinary technologies. So Freddie actually mentioned about that. And this is the last one that I included, where one of the students during our session attended the UAV class, and he even wrote me an email saying, okay, if I'm going to join, would I be able to work as a professorial assistantship, like as a research assistant? And guess what? 6 months later, he's actually working with me. Being a freshman, he's being involved in these technologies and research. So that is something very endearing for me, like working with these young students, enthusiastic about learning these new technologies. So with that, I would like to summarize. Technological visualization of infrastructure condition is very helpful in connecting with the students and also communities. I take opportunity to introduce them in the classroom, basically more modifying the course modules by adding, drone part and also machine learning. That is very helpful, and students were able to connect to those technologies, and conferences, attending conferences and presenting it, as well as preview day events. Most of the universities do have preview day events, so it is really helpful to showcase what works that you do, so that they come and work for us. To be honest, there is some selfishness there, that students come and work for us more than the other disciplines. And summer institutes, basically summer institutes at MSU, we have a very good summer institute where we get hundreds of students come and stay on campus for a week and get exposed to different disciplines. So I was able to partner with our College of Engineering and do 2 sessions, like 3 hours long, for 100 students, so which was very helpful. And public events, sometimes farmers market or some other public events does have some activities going on, like with engineering focus. So we go and participate with these technologies to capture their attention. And the last but not least is field data collection. Sometimes when you go out in the field and fly the drones, you always get the attention, sometimes positive, sometimes negative attention. But most of the times, the positive attention, you can convert it as an informational session as well, if the students are interested. So those are the activities we are currently doing at MSU and hope to continue in the years to come in collaboration with NCIT.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Congress. So
Thank you.
Thank you. So to stay on time, I want to make sure that we give Mr. Marc Williams and Mr. Darran Anderson with TxDOT plenty of time for their keynote address in just a couple of minutes. So we do have 2 questions in the chat. One is for Laura, and it says, how was the internship program affected by the pandemic? What would the advantages and disadvantages be of going back to fully in-person format? And then there's one for Precious where it says you listed an outline topic of predictive modeling of bike choice. Briefly explain its meaning within the context of your research. Now, unfortunately, we don't quite have time to go through these answers, but Laura and Precious, maybe if y'all could document those questions and give us a little bit of a response, we can include them with the notes from this session. So, Steph, we have 1 minute before Melissa needs to give her keynote intro. So I'm going to throw it back to you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dr. Gergangas, and all of our speakers for joining us today and providing us with such an amazing session. Just due to the time, we're going to go ahead and move straight on into our keynote session. I would like to bring Dr. Melissa Tooley to the stage to formally introduce our keynote speakers. Melissa, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Tooley. I'm Deputy Director and Research Coordinator for NCIT, and I'll be introducing our keynote speakers from the Texas Department of Transportation. State DOTs are key stakeholders in the UTC program nationwide, and TxDOT is no exception. We are fortunate that TxDOT's commitment to innovation and implementation is so perfectly aligned with NCIT's mission and vision. Our first speaker is going to join us by video. Marc Williams is the Executive Director of the Texas Department of Transportation, leading a team of 13,000 people to enhance safety, mobility, and quality of life for Texans. Texas has the nation's largest state transportation system with over 80,000 miles of highways, 55,000 bridges, and 500 million vehicle miles traveled daily, moving over 4 billion tons of freight worth $3 trillion annually. So with that, Stephanie, if you could roll the video. Okay, Darran, there you are. Let me go ahead and introduce you real quick. The second half of our keynote session is Darran Anderson, who is the Director of Strategy and Innovation for TxDOT. He's responsible for TxDOT's strategic innovation, emerging technology, and research initiatives, and performance analytics and enterprise initiatives, with the objective of providing a forward-thinking, efficient approach for an enhanced future of mobility throughout the state of Texas. He oversees the strategic initiatives and innovation and research and technology implementation divisions. So please welcome Darran.
All right. Well, it's great to be with y'all. I'm going to get my slides shared with you. There we go. All right. I think we're sharing now. Yes, we are. Great. So great to be with y'all. You heard from my executive director, Marc. He's my boss, and I'm very fortunate to work with him and all the folks at TxDOT on my role as it relates to innovation and research and emerging technologies. And obviously that's my area of responsibility. You can tell that by the cover slide. It's my favorite cover slide, tries to convey that concept. But I'll try to speak more broadly as it relates to overall your actions related to the department and just where we're looking and where we're thinking in TxDOT. As a part of that, I actually sat down over the last couple of weeks, reviewed your semi-annual reports. I looked at your 19 projects that are underway and was really pleased to see that. And I hope to speak to some of that in the next few minutes. As I went through the semi-annual reports in the main page, some things struck out to me. And so I'm going to kind of read from what was listed there that I felt resonated with our activities. In that you're focused on the transformation of American infrastructure from both a physical and policy perspective. That it aligns with USDOT's research priority of improving durability and extending the life of transportation infrastructure. And as was evidenced in just the last hour, that's achieved through leadership, research, education, and workforce development, as well as technology transfer and collaboration programs. And that the outcome of the colloquium is to support our technology transfer and collaboration mission, as well as to inspire our audience through innovative research. And it will also feature your education workforce development initiative. So I thought that was particularly relevant to what we do, as well as what you just went over. So moving forward, this is just an overview of TxDOT's mission and vision, as well as our values. I think those align with what you're doing. I tell people often that as you look at the vision statement, that's probably where my mission statement is. That's the area that I operate on. And then much of the rest of the department is working on the daily execution and operations of connecting you with Texas. And all of those with the purpose of focusing on our people and the being accountable, and trust and honesty are inherent to what we have to do as a government entity serving the state. I think what you do as well leads to all of those. Marc mentioned his 4 priorities. Again, within all 4 of those priorities, there's activities within your research and other efforts that I think relate. There's certainly within safety, there's resiliency and technology innovation and thoughts that tie to safety, and a more resilient system also is a more safe system. Certainly with delivery on design and construction and environmental and other activities throughout the life cycle of project delivery. All of those are enhanced through resiliency efforts. Stewardship certainly is a key component of that, because we focus on maintenance, environmental activities, the stewardship of our people, as well as to the people of Texas, and overall the resources which the state gives us to accomplish our mission. As you look at innovation specifically, this is one of my slides that we share. This is how we define innovation within the department. I like to emphasize that it's not just about technologies. It's also through processes and research and people and other activities. Heavy emphasis of my area is on emerging technologies and their deployment and their meaning for transportation as a whole across the state, and what it means for our activities. But certainly we look for innovation across the department and encourage that regularly. And certainly through our research program, we do as well. And I think from what I've heard and what I've read, this UTC in particular and its efforts are aligned with all these priorities and with our vision. And I do think, those priorities are not unusual to TxDOT. I think if you speak to any state DOT across the nation, those are a pretty accurate summary of their focus areas. And so I think your research is well positioned, not only to support our concepts in thought, but also those as well. And that could extend to national organizations such as AASHTO, the Association of State Highway Transportation Organizations. So why is this work important? From a Texas point of view, I pulled a few slides from some things that we share broadly and regularly across the department, but also as we talk to external stakeholders. Texas population continues to grow. And you can see just in 2023 how much the population grew, and that continues to be projected to grow up to 2050. And not long ago, the state demographer was projecting doubling Texas's population by 2050. I think he's backed off a little bit from that, but it's still pretty close to another, a doubling of the total population. So that's coming to Texas and is already coming. Within Texas alone, what is our roadway system? And this is specifically speaking to the components that TxDOT's responsible for. So over 80,000 miles of roadway in our state. And yes, we like to say more than any other state. Certainly bridges, we're the largest state in terms of total number of bridges by far. And as you can see there, 29,000 more than the next highest state in terms of numbers of bridges. And certainly rural connectivity is a key component of that. And when you think about resiliency and you think about innovation, that applies to all of these activities and all of the responsibilities we have in our system, and then extends to all of our stakeholders and partners in the local and county levels across the state. We're also a key economic state for the U.S. Just a snapshot of the tonnage and the dollars that are spent across the multimodal aspects of economic development in the state. And you can see the projections out to 2050 that continue to increase. So we anticipate a huge amount of economic activity in the state, and that'll be traveling across all modes. But those modes have to stay resilient. They have to stay innovative in order to be able to handle that increase in overall activity throughout the next 25 some odd years. I looked at your research pillars, about resiliency, about technology, innovation, and policy. The description stood out to me on infrastructure, durability, and resiliency. You talk about lifespan and resiliency of transportation assets, enabling transportation infrastructure to be prepared for natural and man-made disruptions. Included in that is better ways to design, build, and maintain all modes of transportation infrastructure, kind of like what I just spoke to. Robust pavements research, new and innovative construction materials, and intelligent construction methods. One of my favorite things to show is the number of robotics that we are continuously implementing into our programs. Everything from robots that tie rebar on bridges to the Boston Dynamics type dog bots that we use for dangerous locations, or other robots that we run through sewer systems as examples of uses of those. All of those lead to stewardship. They lead to environmental stewardship activities. And another component of that was recycling, and we're a heavy recycler across all the materials that we use in the department. As you think about technology, that again, my space. You listed out all the things I work on: connected and automated vehicles, electrification of vehicles and its relationship to the infrastructure, the use of, as I just mentioned, technology to enhance construction project delivery, the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. We just completed our artificial intelligence strategic plan, and that should be released in December. Unmanned aerial vehicles. I love the discussion earlier about some of those uses, and we have an extremely robust unmanned aerial program. Started with a research project back in 2014, 2015, And now it's an entire program across the department. We have pilots throughout the department. We have contractors that use drones, and we use them for all types of activities. Our drone leader actually believes that we're the largest government drone activity in the U.S. right now. A lot of that for proactive infrastructure management and for identifying problems ahead of time and addressing them and looking for improvements to the overall system that we can, extend the lifespan and again look at resiliency concerns. And again, policy. You talked about equity and social justice considerations, improve economic analyses, innovative transportation finance methods, environmental stewardship, policies relating to project delivery, to innovative construction. All of those are activities that are ongoing within our divisions and districts across the department. So I think the work and the research you're doing has direct application to those activities, and I think that there will be several interested in the outcomes of several of those projects. Speaking of strategic plans, I mentioned the AI one, but we're also developing a strategic plan on resiliency. It's not complete. I know it's under review right now, but I don't think that that's going to be much far behind the AI strategy in publishing and announcing. I looked over it just this week just to look for top level comments that it spoke to. Talked about challenges related to climate related disruptions, everything from extreme heat, cold, flooding, hurricanes, wildfires, storms, drought, human-made ones such as cyber attacks, everyday things like bridge strikes and other physical damage that lead to closures, data gaps that impact our ability to be aware of resiliency needs, lack of sufficient redundancy on some of our main and critical roadways is a part of that as well. It identifies opportunities for improving reliability, for improving freight resilience, kind of what I spoke to on the modalities, improving or optimizing maintenance cost, and using data and data sharing to underlie all of that, which is a key activity in my divisions. And what are those benefits? It's, as Marc said, our number one priority is always safety, but also economic vitality, less disruption and delays, savings and budget optimization. Key to resiliency is extending asset lifespans and reducing downtime and repairs. And it's across all the modes. So bridges, culverts, roadways, intelligent transportation systems, all the modalities, border crossings, rail, transit, airports, and even the bike lanes and shared use paths that were mentioned in the research earlier, and our maritime ports as well. Within my research program, or our research program, these are the functional area committees. I also felt that this was valuable to you, just to see how do we group our research projects within TxDOT. We have our own state research program, just like all the other state DOTs, and these are those. And again, as I looked across your 19 projects, I think there's a lot of relationship to these functional area committees and in the subsequent higher committees that review all the research that we're doing. You have research involving soils, embankments, asphalt, extreme conditions, and new materials, which certainly speaks to construction, maintenance, and materials, speaks to structures and hydraulics, strategy and innovation. It covers all. There could be related research in all of these functional areas that tie to that. And we have a very robust materials program. We have our own lab here in Austin, and we have other labs across the state, as well as the universities that we work with to test our materials regularly. I mentioned the Unmanned Aerial System Program. I think you have 3 projects that involve those, and I think all of those would be of interest to that program and an interest to the divisions and districts that are tied into those aspects of the program. So resiliency of bridge superstructures, quality monitoring were ones, and then asset management, I think, is another one I noticed. You had one on infrastructure accommodations for AV trucks and platoons. Very pleased to see that that effort already reached out to our Connected and Autonomous Vehicle Task Force, which is the governor's task force. I chair that task force for the state, and glad that they're tied into them. And it is really a great opportunity for that activity to reach out to the subject matter experts that come to the state and work on these activities. You also have several EV and hydrogen projects. We manage the state National Electric Vehicle Implementation Program, the NEVI program. Probably will not see TxDOT run electric vehicle charging infrastructure beyond these grants that are under that program, but we're still very interested. We use EVs within the department. We have our own charging stations. So we're constantly looking at the growth of that. What does it mean for transportation in general? I noticed the revenue one, that's always a constant ask by the legislature. So interested to see the results of that research, as well as policy considerations that were listed under some of those as well. You had several examples in the hour preceding of workforce development. Very fantastic. We have a very large internship program. I was very happy to see that you had, at least in your first cohort on highway construction workforce, that 5 of the 6 participants were in that first cohort were TxDOT interns too, which I think is fantastic. And I would encourage you to reach out to TxDOT, to our Human Resources Division. We have year-round internships now. We used to only have summer ones, but now you can actually have interns throughout the entirety of the year, and we can work with you across the state. Really, it doesn't have to be limited to a specific geographic location, to work with districts or with the divisions here in Austin, and get your students tied into activities that directly relate to the work that you're doing. And another one that I noticed under technology transfer was Advanced Bridge Technology Clearinghouse. I think that would be very interesting to our bridge program. We have an effort through them that's kind of a concrete bridge national research project that's training on concrete bridge design and development. But I think the work here would be greatly beneficial to our bridge division as well as to the districts across the state. Okay, last slide. I thought it pertinent to talk about, relationships to UTCs in general and in our state DOTs and others. Little late now, but in the future, TxDOT tends to always provide letters of support to proposing state universities for a UTC. We do this without having access or input to the proposal and planned project activities. We'd like to see those. We'd love to know about it in advance, and we can include that in the letter of support. But we are supportive of the UTC overall effort nationally, and understand that even if the work is not directly aligned to our activities, that it has value at a national level across the entirety of USDOT. We can also provide soft matching funds to UTCs. When requested, Texas allows universities with active research projects under TxDOT to count those funds toward a match where the research project aligns with that participating university's UTC theme or focus area. So I think I'd encourage you to reach out to Kevin Pete, who's our division director for the Research and Technology Implementation Division. I'll highlight all of this to him, especially those 19 ones that I've already reviewed, and talk to him about, can we share this information with the other divisions that are relative to those areas, and see if we can't have at least some collaborative efforts. If not, again, looking for matching opportunities if those are in need, but also just to continue that activity over the next 5+ years as you execute this overall activity. Doesn't have to be. I think another important thing is state, doesn't have to be DOT funding, state DOT funding. Other state agencies are allowed to contribute to a UTC's research program if it's relevant. Admittedly, we can only use certain types of funding. And in most cases that state planning and research money, I know for this year, because I'm fighting for money right now, the entirety of that is already committed. It's very difficult to find, unless you're talking a few years in advance, any opportunity to use any of that type of money relative to a UTC effort. But the potential is there. There are a lot of constraints from the federal highway funding rules. But there's potential. I think most importantly is aligning the research project that we have now and into the future to those efforts that you guys have as well. I think those were the key points I wanted to make. I wanted to leave a little bit of time for any questions, and hopefully that was a good rapid overview for you. And I'm happy to be here, like I said, and to have the opportunity to speak to you.
We appreciate it, Darran. That was really great. And it's so nice to hear that what y'all are doing with your priorities aligns so well with what we're doing. And we really look forward to working with you and your colleagues more in the future. So we'll go ahead and jump to questions real quick. And I see that we have one from Judy Perkins, our director. So the first part of her question is, what are some emerging multimodal surface transportation infrastructure solutions that can be integrated into the existing infrastructure?
Well, honestly, I think that the existing ones are we're aware of them, where we have, we in the last legislative session, it was one of the first times where we actually had allocations of resources to address some of those other modes. So port funding, for example, some rail funding, as well as some additional aviation. So I think that the state is opening up to the idea that the transportation mission is broader than just roads and bridges. So those opportunities are there. The areas that I work on, we're certainly connected very closely to autonomous vehicle developers. We're not funding them, but we are working with them on what does deployment of autonomy mean for the state, and where can we help them with that mission. There are some discussions certainly on connectivity, as well as some design issues that, although they don't want to say that they need those from us, there's a potential there. And I always say, if we improve, for example, striping on our roads, that doesn't help just robots, it helps people now. And a lot of the activities that support emerging technologies have direct relationship to helping, current users of the system. So I think we have opportunity there. I've mentioned AI. You'll see in our AI strategy, we have over 200 use cases identified in that strategy from across the department. And I think there's opportunities there for both research as well as development of solutions. I spoke with going way outside the current times, Hyperloop company that's currently in Canada, has great interest in coming to Texas. I know there have been other companies that have examined that. There's a lot of hurdles, just like there are for high-speed rail to come into Texas. But the opportunity is there. If the public sentiment is right, if the legal atmosphere enables it, there's opportunities there as well. But I think there's a very broad spectrum. It's just a matter of what is, in our case, what is TxDOT's role to play, and then what is also the state's willingness to adopt them.
Yeah, which kind of leads us right into the second part of her question, which is what challenges might arise in convincing stakeholders of their long-term effectiveness? That's going to be your biggest challenge, I think.
Well, it depends on the technology, and it depends on the stakeholder, right?
Yeah.
You can probably imagine there are a number of stakeholders. I'm mentioning, back to Hyperloop and high-speed rail, a lot of stakeholders on that side that are for it, and there's others that are completely against the idea, and it's just a matter of working through those issues, taking it closer in. Autonomy, we are the leading state for autonomy right now. There are more different types and numbers of deployments than any other state. We believe that the developers so far, in most cases, have been acting very appropriately and very tied into communities and tied into research activities. One stopped operations. They're fixing some of the problems that they had, and they'll be back again, I imagine. I do expect in the next legislative session there may be some potential efforts to provide some clarifying laws that will help even the playing field across, the deployer's concerns, and make them, make the state more able to be aware of what's happening. They've been very open with us, but they're not necessarily registered in the state, as an example. Some Some of them operate very similar to rideshare companies, but they don't fall under the same rules. So I think there may be some efforts in those areas that will clarify those roles relative to the state's laws. But it's just the best deployers of emerging transportation solutions are those, in my mind, that really understand that stakeholder engagement, that really come to the state and they ask, who do we need to talk to? I mean, that's the purpose of the Connected Autonomous Vehicle Task Force. Is one of the first things they ask is, who all do we need to engage? Here's where we're interested to operate. How do we get in touch with those people? And we serve as a facilitator to do that and do that regularly with them, to include our legislative leadership, which is kind of the culmination of those efforts as they go into session.
Yeah. And as you know, the adoption of autonomous and connected vehicles is going to require some technology investments on the infrastructure side. How is TxDOT addressing making sure that those investments are sustainable, that the technology does, because technology changes so rapidly. It's a continuous challenge. How are y'all dealing with that?
Well, our approach has been multi-path, but speaking specifically to the sustainability component of it, one of the things that we've really looked at is the tendency to procure versus procure the actual devices and equipment versus a more open effort to collaborate and capitalize on industry development. And I think that's the direction we're headed for a lot of connected vehicle technology, which would enhance, and not just the physical infrastructure, but the data component of that supports overall autonomy as well as current vehicles. We think that there's greater opportunity to do that with them, and then establish what are our expectations for reliability, what are our expectations for resiliency, and recognizing that the turnover of technology is so rapid that to build that into those contract agreements, that they have to stay current with current technology and have a plan to refresh over time built into any kind of contract we do with them. And that extends to data as well. I mean, all the uses of AI and data architectures we're constantly pushing for. You've got to stay current. You got to be aware of cybersecurity threats and all the privacy concerns. And you have to meet the national and state standards to do all of that, or we can't even begin to conduct business with you.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I mean, we're just a little bit after 1:30, and I appreciate so very much you taking time to join us this afternoon. So if everybody would please join me in thanking Darran Anderson for his remarks this afternoon. And with that, thank you.
Huge crowd.
Okay, with that, we'll toss it back over to Stephanie. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you so much for such a wonderful keynote session. We are going to go ahead and take a short break here just to let everybody stretch their legs and grab a cup of coffee if needed. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll reconvene right at 1:35 for instructions on the concurrent sessions. We'll see you back here shortly.